2 years ago, I started work on a YouTube video about an old Tatsunoko anime called Hakushon Daimao that has a lost English dub called Bob in a Bottle. Coincidentally around then, I suddenly had a lot more time to dedicate to a YouTube channel because reasons. I made videos about the official English material of series like Doraemon and Crayon Shin-chan, and I decided in late 2020 on a big special milestone episode, which you are watching right now. Today, 2 years after starting my series, we're going to look at one of the most highly regarded Japanese media franchises in the West, Full Metal Alchemist, an incredible shonen action series authored by Hiromu Arakawa. First published in Shonen Gangan in July of 2001, Full Metal Alchemist is set in a country based on 1920s Europe that uses alchemy. Alchemy in FMA is almost as if science and magic had a baby. Unlike alchemy in other media or historic textbooks, this version operates by the law of equivalent exchange. If one wishes to obtain something, then something of equal value must be sacrificed. Full Metal Alchemist follows the journey of young brothers Edward and Alphonse Elric. As children, they lived with their mother in a peaceful countryside town, but one day, she fell ill and passed away. In desperation, despite every piece of material telling them not to, they decided to perform the forbidden act of human transmutation to return their mother to life. Ed and Al set everything up, they performed the transmutation, and it didn't go quite as planned. This horrible mistake cost Edward his left leg and Alphonse his entire body. Ed sacrificed his right arm to attach Al's soul to a massive suit of armor, making sure his brother would stay by his side. The Elric brothers start to hunt for the legendary Philosopher's Stone, an item said to ignore the law of equivalent exchange, in the hopes of restoring their bodies to normal. In the meantime, Ed is outfitted with prosthetic steel limbs called Automail. Ed joins the military in his pursuit for answers to regain what he and his brother had lost. But they face adversity during their journey from a vengeful serial killer, supernatural enemies called homunculi, and a deeper conspiracy even involving the military itself. In 2002, Studio Bones took an interest in adapting Full Metal Alchemist into an anime. The series was young at the time, only being a year old. Arakawa was in disbelief such a renowned studio wanted to make an anime of her work. As the manga was a monthly publication, there was not much material to go off, but director Seiji Mizushima wanted to go his own way with the story, loosely adapting parts of the manga and putting his own spin on the world and characters. The anime debuted in Japan on October 4th, 2003, and became an instant phenomenon. And this is where our story begins. This is the story of how Full Metal Alchemist became one of the most successful Japanese franchises in the English-speaking world. The year is 2003. Consumers are beginning to use the internet in greater number. High-speed connections are on the rise, especially that winter. 61% of US adults are using the internet, 31% using broadband connections. And Japanese animation is being distributed for free with fan-made subtitles, or fansubs, on peer-to-peer clients, modernizing from older days where fansubs were on VHS tapes. Within days of a new episode airing in Japan, fanservice would be hard at work to release a subtitled version of it in their native language. There was questionable legality and polish to it, but this was the birth of many anime fandoms before an official release. The fansub teams Anime Keep and ANBU released the first English language translation of the Full Metal Alchemist anime only 2 days after it had aired in Japan. And it took no time for a fanbase to form, with fans taking a strong liking to the show's mature tone, graphic visuals, detailed characters, and outstanding music. Full Metal Alchemist week to week competed with the Naruto anime in terms of popularity on forums and torrent trackers. At its peak, Full Metal had over 8,000 leechers on episode torrents and ranked regularly in the top 20 user-rated anime on animeinfo.com, even above the likes of Cowboy Bebop and Berserk. Full Metal's foreign fanbase continued to grow, but suddenly in spring of 2004, the fansubs stopped. There was evidence Dallas-Fort Worth-based anime studio Funimation was going to license the series for an American release. The company parked the URL fullmetalalchemist.com as early as February 25th, 2004, and word began spreading on April 30th, 2004 that one of the video games might be coming to North America. Some fans were not happy about this. The biggest reason was Funimation's reputation at the time. The company's adaptation of Dragon Ball Z, rife with censorship, changed music, and cheesy scripts, was still fresh in everyone's minds. However, that's not to say all fans were disappointed, far from it. Some were happy that there was going to be an official release of Full Metal Alchemist. In light of this, fans also noted Funimation parked numerous domain names for a certain anime about pirates sailing the high seas, and that, unfortunately, went to 4Kids Entertainment. so there was still that bit of doubt Funimation would pick up Full Metal. But E3 2004 eliminated any doubt, as on May 10th, the news broke Square Enix was indeed going to release the PS2 FMA game in North America, and the anime would be handled by Funimation. The series was set to air on Cartoon Network in October 2004, the first DVD set was to release in January of 2005, and the PS2 game was expected to launch in the spring of 2005. The article on IGN regarding this announcement became the most popular story on the site that day, much to the surprise of the editors. Within days, FullMetalAlchemist.com went live, featuring 2 trailers for the English dub of the anime, one being narrated by Christopher Sabat and the other being narrated by the yet unknown voice of Alphonse Elric. Unlike the Japanese version, which has Rie Kugimiya, an adult woman, performing the role of Alphonse, the US dub seemed to have an actual kid voicing the character. The good news was the anime would be uncut, as the videos featured the blood and cleavage, untouched from the original, and kept opening 2, Ready Steady Go, intact. A Funimation representative killed any further worry of a censored release, confirming the DVDs would be uncut and the broadcast would be on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim block with only slight editing. Adult Swim offers greater leeway and allows for less editing, but there is still some editing. Funimation advertised Full Metal Alchemist at upcoming conventions, giving out free posters, screening a trailer for the anime at their booth, and letting everyone know the series was going to drop on Adult Swim in the coming months. The biggest event to promote this new property was Otakon in Washington, D.C. in late July 2004, where an estimated 20,899 anime fans gathered. Funimation partnered with Larkin CL to have 30 limited edition image cards throughout the venue, and the Funimation booth held a special Full Metal Alchemist cosplay gathering during the weekend. During Otakon, Americans would have a chance to see the English dub of Episode 1 on July 31st, 2004, where Larkin CL held their first North American concert. As a special pre-show to the band that sang the second opening of the anime, audience members were treated with an early look at Full Metal Alchemist's first episode dubbed into English. And if you didn't catch it the first time, they showed it a second time right after. By the way, if the footage on screen didn't make it apparent, there were a lot of people here. 12,000 people actually. ANN journalist Christopher McDonald wrote in his recap of the concert, "Perhaps the moment many people will remember the most is when Hyde yelled, 'Are you f***ing ready?' before launching into the Full Metal Alchemist theme song." Attendees could also see the dubbed episode in one of the con's video rooms. Full Metal fanatics present at the con made their early remarks on the dub. As expected, reviews were mixed, at best. Most of the praise went to the voice of Alphonse Elric, with viewers calling it cute. However, Ed's voice was, surprisingly, done by a man, instead of a woman like in Japanese. According to Anime Ski forum member Do, there was a massive groan when Edward spoke, but the crowd seemed to get into it after a few minutes. But as of the con, there was neither an official cast list nor many guesses as to who voices the characters. Best guess I saw is Ed being voiced by adult Gohan. FullMetalAlchemist.com underwent an overhaul on October 19th, 2004 in preparation for the premiere on Adult Swim. With this site redesign came the big announcement. The cast list! Auditions for Full Metal Alchemist began in April of 2004 and continued for 4 days. Representatives from Aniplex over in Japan had a hand in the casting decisions as well. Auditions happened prior to the show even being over in Japan, so nobody knew how the plot was going to end. Casting for Full Metal was a bit different because casting for the anime and the first video game happened concurrently. The anime was to be recorded at Funimation, while the games were to be recorded at Chris Sabat's studio, Okratron 5000. And the funny thing about it is, the first game was being dubbed before the team began recording the first episode of the anime. Weird, right? Most of the time, auditions worked by having actors read for 3 or so roles, then the English and Japanese staff would decide between a handful of candidates. So, during this process, the staff had to pull together casting opinions from casting directors Justin Cook and Chris Sabat. And Cook had clear ideas on what he wanted and who he wanted for certain parts, hence why I said most of the time this is how it went. He was originally planning to direct the show, but received a promotion and became the line producer. This said, he did the casting for the main characters and some early roles, then everyone else on the cast was up to the folks that did end up being the directors, Colin Clinkenbeard and Mike McFarland. McFarland thought FMA was something related to Full Metal Panic, but realized this was completely unrelated and something with a lot of potential. Per Clinkenbeard and McFarland, they saw one episode and immediately wanted it. Full Metal was the first project at Funimation where the directors worked together as a unit. They had regular meetings about who to cast and what direction they wanted to go with the show, but they both always followed the goal of authenticity to the intent of the Japanese version. In various interviews and articles, it was confirmed the version of the dub that would be broadcast on Adult Swim would be different from the one shown at Otakon. Clinkenbeard stated in an interview with Adult Swim's Swim Torrent, a bunch of the characters have changed actually. So, yay Lost Media aficionados, we've got another piece of Lost Media, the original version of the FMA dub. From the start of the project, the directors wanted to have an all-star cast, hiring connections they made professionally or through cons from Houston, New York, Los Angeles, and beyond on top of the local Dallas-Fort Worth actors. They wanted everyone and anyone to make this a top-tier dub. And according to McFarland and Clinkenbeard, they had a long evening to choose the cast. The staff had 2 or 3 spreadsheets of everyone they could possibly cast as different characters. Well, time to finally jump into the cast list of the main characters. Edward Elric is voiced by Vic Mignogna, and was someone Justin Cook had in mind for the character. Mignogna's wealth of experience in voice acting helped in his performance of Ed, as he didn't need much guidance to match the tone of a scene. When the show first came his way, just like McFarland, he thought it was related to Full Metal Panic, a show in which he voiced Kurz Weber. Mignogna was not aware Ed was the main character when going in for auditions. The staff put out a bunch of character sheets, and for all Mignogna knew, Ed would have a few lines and be over and done with, as there's no context for the characters beyond what the director asked the actors to do. Funimation was on a tight schedule to get episode 1 done in time for the Larkin CL concert, so Mignogna recorded the entirety of the episode not long after being cast. But let's address the elephant in the room. Mignogna is a male, Romy Park, Ed's Japanese voice actress, is a female. When Mignogna auditioned for this role, he wasn't even sure if he'd get it given how different it sounds from Park's take. But Aniplex liked it, the English director liked it, and he got the role. Mignogna even acknowledged the great age discrepancy between him and Ed, but said, "What I want so much to capture in him is the pain. I mean, this is a little boy, and yet he's thrown into this huge world. He's experienced great tragedy and he has a lot of challenges. He's still trying to control himself and his own actions and attitudes." Mignogna fell in love with Full Metal Alchemist, much like the rest of the staff. Amongst all the shows he had worked on up until that point, he said, quote, "This is the neatest one yet."
Don't look away, Rose. You need to see what happens when you try to bring a human to life. When you cross into God's territory or whatever the hell it is. Is this what you want? Look!
In contrast to Mignogna as Edward, younger brother Alphonse is played by a boy named Aaron Dismuke. The team had a few adult women try for the part too, but casting director Justin Cook was dead set on having a child actor perform the role of Al. Cook liked Dismuke's performance as a young Hirosoma in Fruits Basket. The Japanese approved this decision, and Cook's idea to cast a kid as Alphonse went through. Dismuke had the benefit of not having to match lip flaps or facial expressions most of the time because Alphonse has his soul trapped in a suit of armor for a lot of his screen time. Considering the source material is so serious, and the fact Dismuke was, 12, he did a great job as one of the leads in FMA. Other actors and directors in the dub loved him as Alphonse, especially Mignogna. Per Mignogna, his first time hearing Dismuke as Alphonse was during a bonding moment between the Elric brothers. Mignogna said listening to Dismuke's innocent vocal performance was heartrending and began tearing up during recording. However, the directors noted it was a little difficult at times as Dismuke was inexperienced. This is one of the hurdles with child actors. You have to tell him when a sentence is actually serious. That takes a little bit of drawing power, said director Colin Clinkenbeard. The directors also tried to incentivize Dismuke to record, like offering him 15 minutes to play Halo with other staff members, some time to surf the web, or a Snickers bar if he could record for, say, 30 minutes. And that echoey effect in Dismuke's voice? That is not digital. The staff hashed ideas for a while on how to make his voice sound like it's coming from a giant suit of armor. Then they asked the Japanese studio how they did it. The solution was simple: a metal mixing bowl. Place that bowl on a stand in front of the mic and have the VA talk into it, bam, realistic echo effect. The staff in Japan requested Funimation to do this too. It was worth it too, even if Dismuke occasionally kicked the bowl on accident and hurt the director and engineer's ears. This is how Funimation did the effect for the other armor-bound souls too. And sometimes Dismuke had to be entrusted with the bowl, like if they were going between the Dallas and Fort Worth studios, and the team drove the point home: Aaron, do not forget the bowl. This is the only bowl they've used that makes this specific echo.
To obtain, you have to give up something of equal value. People say Ed's a prodigy, but that's just because he paid with enough effort.
Funimation cast child actors on several roles other than Alphonse. In an interview with Sequential Tart, Vic Mignogna addressed some of the potential issues of this. We've already acknowledged the lack of experience, but Mignogna addressed how kids are sometimes hard to work with as they get bored easily. I mean, they have to sit there for a good minute or two for the audio engineer to review the recording, the director listens, etc, etc. For those who don't know, before a voice actor starts recording, there are 3 beeps, boop, 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 and where that 4th beep would be, they start recording. One of the best stories from the booth with Dismuke is when he was leaning back in his chair, and on that 4th beep he tried to lean forward in the chair, and suddenly the staff hears a quiet, "Help!" Dismuke fell over in the booth and was trapped. But going back to point 3, Mignogna had this thought. If Full Metal continues going, next thing you know they've got some OVAs, then maybe even, God willing, would have a 2nd season or something. And you know, if you catch a little kid at the wrong time, his voice starts changing. The Flame Alchemist Colonel Roy Mustang's voice is provided by Travis Willingham. This is, yet again, a person Justin Cook had in mind. After a show in which Willingham was involved, Cook told Willingham, "You know, I've got this part that from what I just saw in the show that you're in, I think you would be really good for. This cocky, arrogant part." Willingham didn't have much other voice acting experience before this show, only being bit roles and stuff like Yu Yu Hakusho and Case Closed, so this was his first big part. Willingham was a big fan of Dragon Ball Z, so working for Funimation was a dream come true. However, he tried to mimic the energy of the high-octane fights of DBC in his initial audition. In the recording booth, he started to act, only to be met with the director telling him to stop acting and just read the line. He also auditioned for Alex Louis Armstrong. In fact, in his audition for Mustang, Willingham said it was more like a combination between his Armstrong voice and the voice that he would eventually give to Mustang. Mignogna and Willingham are both from LA, so when they flew in to do episodes, they recorded multiple at a time.
There's a reason you became a state alchemist, right, Ed? Can you really afford to get distracted by every little lost cause?
The trusty young automail mechanic Winry Rockbell's voice actress is Caitlin Glass, which is her second big role in her career after being Hio no Yuizaki in Spiral. Glass had also auditioned for Alphonse and was most interested to do that role, but of course that went to Dismuke. Glass had read for several other characters, pretty much anyone female on the cast, including Rosé, Riza Hawkeye, and Lust, the lattermost of which she gave a British accent. And while she did get the role of Winry, Winry was not even an option for audition when she tried out for other parts. Before the show even aired on TV, some voice actors at a panel during a con pointed her out in the audience and said that she would be voicing Winry. To give everyone listening an idea on how hyped up this show was, she was being asked for autographs for voicing Winry before the show even aired on TV. That's when she learned, yes, this is going to be a big deal.
Can I see? The loving workmanship, the detail. Now this is the work of a craftsman. How's it run? Do you wind it or is it self-wound or could it possibly be a new technique?
I don't know.
Sonny Strait is Major, later Lieutenant Colonel, and much later Brigadier General, Maz Hughes. The funny thing is, he just barely made it to get the part. He was out of town until the 4th day of auditions and happened to be in the next booth over. They called him in and he nailed the role, capturing everything they wanted in the voice for this loving father, blowing every other audition out of the water. One of the traits the team was looking for was to be both the goofy and excessively loving father, but also the sharp and serious worker. In fact, one of the lines in the audition process was, "Sorry, but I've got a wife and daughter waiting for me at home." What did he say when leaving the booth? "Sorry, but I've got a wife and daughter waiting for me at home." And I suppose all of this is fitting as Strait has the glasses, beard, and kids to play the character.
Sir!
This is going to be great! You have no idea how lucky you are coming into town today! It's Alicia's birthday tomorrow!
Damian Clark is the vengeful serial killer Scar. Much like Travis Willingham and Vic Mignogna, Clark lived in LA when the show was being dubbed, pursuing a career in doing live action work.
O merciful God who shapes us all, please return these scarred souls to your unending womb.
And Laura Bailey is the lascivious homunculus Lust. As seen later in the series, Lust is more than a sexy bod, so Cook kept telling Bailey to make it less sexy. Bailey said carrying that air of stoicism in the performance was difficult, and it was hard to keep that breathy, deep voice while being violent. But just like so many other cast members, she loved being an FMA.
One book in this whole mess, it's like searching for a needle in a stack of needles.
The rest of the cast on the list had some familiar names to those keeping up with Funimation in that era. ADR director Colin Clinkenbeard is Rosé and Second Lieutenant Riza Hawkeye. Clinkenbeard being Rosé was just a matter of happenstance. The staff originally had someone else in to be Rosé. No name was disclosed, but this mystery actress apparently couldn't do the job. Clinkenbeard was thrown in as a placeholder, and due to time constraints was kept. As for Hawkeye, that casting decision was by Justin Cook, so it wasn't intentional Clinkenbeard had 2 roles in the show on top of being an ADR director. Her voice for Hawkeye was as low as she had ever gone up until then. Chris Kaysen is the homunculus with the never-ending appetite gluttony, Ed Blaylock is the watchful ruler Fuhrer King Bradley, Chuck Huber is the sewing life alchemist Sho Tucker, and R. Bruce Elliott is Brigadier General Bas Gran, aka the Iron Blood Alchemist. Elliott had entered the industry earlier that year with roles in Kitty Grade and Case Closed. But some were in their first big-name roles, at least at Funimation, instead of one-time characters or Walla. Julie Erickson as the Rockbell Grandma Pinocchio Rockbell, Andy Mullins is the cult leader Father Cornello, Lydia Mackey is the Elric brothers' mom Trisha Elric, Lauren Good as Maz Hughes' wife Gracia Hughes. Much like our jungle-dwelling pal David, Good hails from Chicago, so she's one of a few people on the cast not from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And Brina Palencia, 2 years out of high school, is the little girl Nina Tucker. This is not the full cast, but we'll look at others as we go. Funimation also posted 2 dub video clips, one featuring the confrontation with Cornello and the other being unknown. Early press coverage of the anime was promising. Underground Online's Kareem Harper watched some early episodes. Imaginative and humorous, but able to find a balance with some interesting and often dark themes of religion and morality, Fullmetal Alchemist is a series to be very excited about. Harper commented on the dub too. Funimation is an anime company worth keeping an eye on, and while I don't like dubs, the actors they choose are great and really breathe life into their characters. FMA debuted on Adult Swim the same weekend as Wizard World Texas, where some Funimation representatives were planning to host a panel called the 411 on Fullmetal Alchemist the day after the premiere. And as one extra push to promote the show, Funimation encouraged fans to make a crowdsourced advertising campaign. Either save a banner, print out a flyer, email a reminder to a friend, or add info about the show's premiere in your forum signature. We are positive that Fullmetal Alchemist has the potential to introduce more people into anime. There are only a handful of anime series that has this type of impact. Our goal is to make Fullmetal Alchemist the highest rated anime show in Adult Swim history. Then, the day finally came. The show debuted on November 6th, 2004 at midnight Eastern Time, and new episodes aired weekly at midnight Eastern/Pacific and 11 p.m. Central/Mountain Time. And if viewers missed the debut, Adult Swim did encore runs of episodes on Thursdays. Now it's time to look at the dub itself, or at least the first half for now. First off, the opening in the Adult Swim broadcast is not Melissa by Porno Graffiti. Instead, it's opening to Ready Steady Go, and a representative from Funimation said it would be used for the full broadcast. However, Funimation assured fans the first opening would be present on the home video release. The ending themes in the broadcast still use the respective songs from the original Japanese version, but they are abridged into 20 seconds. Tight schedule. The most notable changes in the Adult Swim broadcast versus the Japanese original are changing the opening to have the US Fullmetal Alchemist logo, putting episode title cards into English, and altering the eye catch that shows the Fullmetal Alchemist logo in the corner from the Japanese logo to the English logo. Some of these changes were kept in the DVD version. Funimation changed some of the pronunciations for character names, notable ones being Sho Tucker becoming Shao Tucker, Maz Hughes becoming Maze Hughes, Rose becoming Rose, Lyra becoming Lyra, and Alex Louis Armstrong becoming Alex Luis Armstrong. If one asks Funimation OGs about these pronunciations, early dubs by Funimation like Dragon Ball Z and Yu Yu Hakusho had a habit of pronouncing character names like a Texan would, hence why we're stuck with Saiyan instead of Saiyajin or Saiyan, and Yu Yu Hakusho's Yusuke Urameshi is pronounced Urameshi. All references to these characters hereon will be by the dub pronunciation. Fullmetal Alchemist's script is accurate to the source material, so no outright egregious mistranslations that send the plot hurtling in another direction or like any ally to good nightmare to you moments. Even the episode titles are the same as in Japanese, unlike some other dubs like Yu Yu Hakusho and the Dragon Ball series, with a few exceptions mostly being seen in early episodes. Episode 5 went from Dash Automail to The Man with the Mechanical Arm. Episode 9 went from The Dog of the Military Silver Watch to Be Thou for the People. Episode 10 only had a slight alteration from Phantom Thief Siren to simply The Phantom Thief. The two-parter with episodes 11 and 12 originally were The Land of Sand, but became The Other Brothers Elric in the dub. And the final episode became Laws and Promises, while the original name was far more spoiler-heavy. Head writer Jared Hedges stated Fullmetal Alchemist is the best written show he's worked on. Hedges wanted to make the show as true to the source as possible while adapting the script to make it sound natural in English, and it really shows throughout the dub. There are shaky moments in places where the dub drops the ball, but I'd say 99% of the dub keeps that goal of authenticity intact. Like even this moment where Ed is more sarcastic in the dub, the rest of the episode still stays true to the original.
So, is the rude commentary included in the bill?
And there are moments of brilliance where, yes, it's a joke, but it's a twist on the original line and appropriate for the tone.
You're empty inside.
Yes, that's what they said when they sentenced me.
And the voice actors had some great cases of ingenuity to make their acting more realistic, even in unconventional, and in one case really gross, ways. So, the gross case is during episode 11 in which Ed has a swollen mouth.
Damn it, I feel sore all over. He had something giving him a boost.
Vic Mignogna bought powdered donuts from a vending machine and stuffed one in his cheek to emulate the sound of a swollen cheek. As mentioned, the way the process works is the actor records their line, then there's a minute or so where the audio engineer processes everything, the director checks it over, etc, etc. In that time, a donut, begins to dissolve. So Mignogna had like this donut mush in his mouth by the time everything was done, so he needed to spit it out and put another one in his mouth for the next scene. Ew, so gross. But other non-nasty moments include episode 19 when Ed throws a teacup at Al. Mike McFarland actually threw a teacup at Aaron Dismuke, so what viewers are hearing is his authentic reaction to having one thrown at him. It's subtle, but man, it is funny to think about. And one more food-related one is when Hughes is eating an apple pie in episode 25. Oh god, episode 25. Sonny Strait was eating cookies. Now we can do some more specific episodes. We'll do this as part plot summary, part facts about the dub. Bear with me, this is a hasty plot summary, so I am skimming finer points as I want to focus on the dub. Episode 1 is well and good. It's a little more jokey than the Japanese version, but there's one detail that stands out.
Easy, Edward. Great, Ed.
Al does not refer to Ed as brother, or as he does in Japanese, Nisan. Al refers to Ed by name. He also does this in episode 2. Thankfully, this is not the case in episodes to follow. The first 13 episodes are a mix of plot-relevant material and one-off stories. The first 2 episodes involve Ed and Al shutting down a cult run by a holy man using a fake Philosopher's Stone. The boys encounter a murderer named Majihal, voiced by Kent Williams, that wants to see his former lover who is still alive but didn't realize it. The brothers stop a terrorist named Bald, voiced by Andrew Chandler, that hijacks a train. Ed takes an alchemy exam with the help of a totally not desperate and deranged man willing to combine his daughter and dog into a chimera, yeah, insert joke here. It's not like there are a million of them online. Ed, of course, passes his exam with flying colors. These episodes introduce 2nd Lieutenant Jean Havoc, or Gene Havoc as he's called in the dub, who was performed by ADR director Mike McFarland. McFarland made his voice for Gene Havoc like Damian Clark in his, quote, pick up the ladies voice. These episodes also further the bond with the Hughes family, as the Elric brothers and Nina Tucker help deliver Mrs. Hughes' baby, Alicia. The Elrics stop a butcher that's also a serial killer named Barry the Chopper, voiced by Jerry Jewell, from cutting Winry to pieces. In the booth, Jerry was also referred to as Jerry the Chopper, but more about that later. The brothers stop a corrupt military member named Yoki, voiced by Barry Andel, that is exploiting the villagers of a coal mining town. Yoki is accompanied by an aspiring alchemist named Lyra, voiced by Monica Rial. Ed tricks Yoki into accepting a gift of fake gold bars in exchange for the deed to the town. Ed gives the deed back to the people, and the townsfolk celebrate. Ed and Al catch a lady of many occupations named Clara, who moonlights as Phantom Thief Siren, voiced by Lucy Christian. By the way, not only was this Lucy Christian's first time using a sultry voice in a role, but also her first voice role at Funimation. This and the girl in episode 5, Marin. Christian usually did voice work for ADV Films in Houston. The brothers find out their identities have been stolen by 2 other brothers. The older brother Russell, voiced by Justin Cook, and younger brother Fletcher, played by Kent Williams' young daughter Avery Williams, now son Adam Williams in adulthood, researching a liquid called red water. The Elrics team up with the Fakers to thwart the plan of a man named Mugiar, performed by Bill Flynn, trying to infect pregnant women with the water to make a Philosopher's Stone. Yeesh, bro, chill! Shout out to this line in the dub, I thought it was clever.
Didn't think I had the stones?
This short story arc briefly introduces Dr. Marco, a former member of the military that has knowledge of the Philosopher's Stone. He is voiced by Bryce Armstrong. But now, let's talk about the fan-favorite episode, Episode 13, Full Metal vs. Flame. This episode quickly became a hit as it's full of fun moments plus some character building scenes. There's a specific scene that fans, to date, love to quote. In the Japanese version of this scene, Toru Okawa plays the voice slightly more enthusiastic, however not deviating far from what he normally does.
Inu. Iine! Ochiro! 何よりもその忠誠心、主人の命令には絶対服従.
Travis Willingham, though?
Dog, huh? I love dogs! Of course! Dogs embody loyalty. They follow their master's commands above all else.
Willingham, well, hammed it up and did this over-the-top voice praising the loyalty of dogs. This voice is based on the one he used when he auditioned for Alex Louis Armstrong, so it didn't fall entirely to the wayside, it still found its way into the dub. And I can't avoid mentioning this iconic quote.
That day, all female officers will be required to wear tiny miniskirts!
The next 13 episodes play more heavily into the overarching plot. In this batch, we're formally introduced to Dr. Marco. He's a remorseful former member of the military that has insight into the Ishbal Civil War. Remember, he had a brief cameo before and has knowledge on the Philosopher's Stone. And at long last, the anime finally introduces the strong-arm alchemist, Alex Louis Armstrong. Armstrong is voiced by Mr. Dragon Ball Z Christopher Sabat. Sabat's voice for Armstrong is appropriately exaggerated and silly, but he also pulls off the important moments well. And this casting decision was kind of on accident. I mentioned earlier the game was dubbed slightly before the anime, so when they did the first cutscene and sent it off to Aniplex, they told Funimation to use the cast in that cutscene. So everyone that was in that animation got cast on the spot by Aniplex. This ended up being a casting decision nobody else on the team really had a say in. Haha, get it? Never mind. But the decision worked out well.
Don't pray just yet. You're facing the technique that's been passed down the Armstrong line for generations. That's hardly a blessing.
Meanwhile, there are riots going on in the city where Ed and Al overthrew the cult, and introduces Envy, the shape-shifting homunculus. Envy is an androgynous character, so the staff had both men and women try out for the villainous palm tree during the audition process. The role went to Wendy Powell. When auditioning for Full Metal, Powell knew from the start she wanted to be Envy just by looking at the pictures. Powell has said Envy was her most challenging but most fun role.
Just remember that you were the one who started this sparring match, Pipsqueak. Do you have any idea who you're trying to pick a fight with here? Huh?
Dr. Marco tips the boys off on where they could find his research notes about the Philosopher's Stone. A library in Central! That gets burned down by the time the brothers get there. This set also introduces this adorable girl that wears glasses named Sheska that used to work at the library and happens to have an eidetic memory. This is the debut role of Gwendolyn Lau. Lau, just like many other actors at Funimation, is a stage actor by trade, so she found it a bit difficult being by herself to record. However, Lau also found the bespectacled bookworm to be relatable. Sheska is a bibliophile that recalls every single book she's ever read, and she got so bored working at the library she started to read random books and military records, leading to her relevance in the story. So she gets to recreating all of Dr. Marco's cookbooks. Ed and Al discover the secret to the Philosopher's Stone is like Soylent Green. It's made of people, well, more specifically, people's souls. Ed deduces the government is using an abandoned lab to transmute prisoners into Philosopher's Stones. Ed turns out to be right as the place is loaded with tripwire alarms and Indiana Jones tier traps, and the lab is guarded by two disembodied souls trapped in armor just like Al. The serial killer Barry the Chopper from an earlier episode was part of the government's experiments and now guards the lab with another murderer nicknamed the Slicer, voiced by Bill Jenkins. And these characters are where we see the famous bowl come back into play as all of them use it, again just like Al. Ed fights the Slicer and Al fights Barry the Chopper. Ed knocks the Slicer's head off, but oh, did I say 2 souls and 2 former killers guarding the place before? I meant to say 3. One Slicer brother is the head, one Slicer brother is the body. The other Slicer brother is played by Duncan Chuck E. Cheese Brannon. A brawl between Al, Barry, and Scar results in Barry blowing up part of the lab. This explosion releases a strange, sharp-toothed, extravagantly dressed character from a chamber below Laboratory 5. This guy is Greed, a homunculus voiced by Houston actor Chris Patton. Patton described his audition for Greed as baptism by fire. He was at Funimation that day for a different project, but Mike McFarlane brought Patton into a booth to audition for the role of Greed. Patton hopped in and the two tested the waters. Of course, Patton nailed the audition. He also said the project was interesting because this was his first time working with two directors.
Let me break this down nice and simple. You can either remain in here as lab rats, or you can come with me to bring hell to those above us. Your choice.
Another actor that tried for the part of Greed is Troy Baker. McFarlane had Baker in for a minute, but Baker just couldn't get the maniacal laughter right, so was declined. Baker did have just the voice to play another character though, as we'll see later. Deep in the lab, it's shown Shao Tucker is still alive, being a chimera. Again, weird government experiments, but now he talks in a whispering voice, again played by Chuck Huber. Despite being such a strange and unconventional voice, Chuck Huber says this is one of the easiest roles he's played. We also meet one of the prisoners, Zolf J. Kimbley. He is played by Eric Vale.
I find it absolutely adorable that you believe everything you see, but that thing is definitely not the Brigadier General Grahn.
It's revealed the homunculi want to become human, and after quite the night in the lab, Ed ends up in the hospital. Oof. Episode 23 showcases yet another child actor amid the dub cast. Tierney Titus is the voice of Hughes' 4-year-old daughter, Alicia. I got a chance to interview Tierney Titus about her time on Fullmetal Alchemist. Here's what she had to say about the audition process.
My dad was producing a show that my mom was in when I was around 6th or 7th grade. And so again, I was there a lot backstage, just hanging out. My dad had been in a show with Colleen. They came to see this show and I happened to be there. So my dad introduced me and she was working at Funimation and on Fullmetal Alchemist and was like, there's a part, you would be great for it. Would you be willing to like come in and read? Obviously asking kind of both me and my dad as I was only 13 years old.
Of course, Titus passed the audition and spent a day to record a couple episodes with Alicia.
Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. Know why? Daddy says when you tell someone congratulations, good things will happen to them. So I'm telling you.
Episode 24 is where we see another actor who isn't from Texas. An Ishbalan boy named Leo, or Rio in the Japanese version, is voiced by Michael Sinterniklaas. Sinterniklaas flew down from New York to record his lines. When Sinterniklaas was cast for the role of Leo, he went like, "Haha, very funny, Mike, I see what you did there." And McFarlane replied with, "What?" Sinterniklaas is Leonardo, or Leo, in the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it was just by sheer coincidence. Episode 24 gives more background about Ishbal through Leo and another Ishbalan boy named Rick. And then comes episode 25, one of the most pivotal parts of the plot, airing on April 30th, 2005. Lieutenant Colonel Maze Hughes learns too much and becomes a target by the homunculi, shot by Envy looking like Hughes' wife Gracia. McFarlane wanted this episode to sound the best it could. Usually, actors go in with no knowledge of the script, but McFarlane gave Maze Hughes and Roy Mustang's voice actors, Sonny Strait and Travis Willingham respectively, a copy of the script to review before recording. And it really shows in the acting how much went into nailing this episode. Sonny Strait said he rehearsed many lines ahead of time, and then when he went in to perform, he and the director tried to find a middle ground on what they wanted. This episode is where the line in the Hughes audition becomes relevant.
I hope you'll forgive me, but I've got a wife and kid waiting for me back home.
Tierney Titus, in particular, had a stellar performance.
Mom, how come? Why are they burying Daddy? Stop them, Mommy! Daddy needs to do his work! He told me! Daddy, wake up!
McFarlane apologized to the child voice actress in the DVD commentary.
But I was like, I'm like, sweet, I really, I want everyone who watches this show to cry, and that's the goal,
According to the websites I saw, it worked.
Well, I'm glad that it did.
A lot of people were crying after this.
Tierney, if you're listening to this, if you listen to the commentary, I'm so proud of you. You did such a good job, and I'm so happy with how it turned out.
This is Titus's recollection of recording this scene.
And then I remember the day that we did the Words of Farewell episode. That day, I got there, they gave me the script, and they told me, so the character who you're the daughter of has died, and it's going to be really a big moment, and this is the scene at the funeral. I had lost a grandparent in 6th grade. So like I knew some of those feelings, not exactly the same, also not a 4-year-old, but just kind of went in and tapped into those emotions and did what I needed to do.
This is one of the best episodes of the anime, as well as the dub. It is such a wonderful farewell to Mace Hughes. Episode 26 on Adult Swim is supposed to be where my favorite anime opening of all time, Undo by Cool Joke, starts playing in the series, but the broadcast continued to use opening too. And just like before, the ending themes were kept in the same episodes as the Japanese counterparts, but truncated to 20-ish seconds. The broadcast of Full Metal Alchemist went on a short hiatus after episode 26 on May 7th, 2005, with Adult Swim playing reruns during the break. So, after months of promoting the hell out of this show, how did it do? Well, Full Metal Alchemist won Action Show of the Year in 2004 on the Adult Swim forums, beating the likes of Inuyasha. Adult Swim saw record viewership in 2004, a 27% increase over the previous year, in part thanks to airing Full Metal Alchemist. The 18 to 34-year-old demographic specifically increased by 24%. Moreover, Adult Swim saw an 88% increase in female viewership, again, partially thanks to Full Metal Alchemist. Funimation had succeeded in their goal, as FMA was the #1 anime title on Adult Swim. And the success was not limited to its TV broadcast. Fans wanting to see the show uncut with no commercial breaks and hear Melissa as the first opening could buy the first DVD volume on February 5th, 2005, containing episodes 1 through 4. The set, and sets to follow, came with the dubbed audio track as well as the Japanese original, creditless opening and ending, and some cool bonuses like commercials from Japan and character profiles. The only changes kept from the Adult Swim run were the English logo and episode cards. The first volume's DVD sales were 80% that of a Dragon Ball GT DVD set released around the same time, and that's one hell of a feat to be competing with anything Dragon Ball. It gets better. Volume 2, containing episodes 5 through 8, released during the break and had even higher sales than Volume 1. Funimation released Volumes 3 and 4 of DVD sets containing episodes 9 through 16 during the break as well. Critics loved this anime, commenting on its beautiful soundtrack, intriguing story, and wonderful visuals. And the dub was well received too. Bamboo Dong of Anime News Network had this to say about the dub in this review of the first DVD set. Vic Mignogna and Aaron Dismuke make a fine pair of brothers, although Mignogna almost sounds too old and jaded for a boy who's only supposed to be a year older than Al. Dismuke's voice is absolutely charming. Only 12 years old, the innocence and earnestness that he applies to his role make him a perfect Alphonse, and one of the shining stars of the dub. Dong gave the dub an A-. The manga was licensed by Viz and announced on December 10th, 2004, scheduled to release in June of 2005, and hey, just in time for the break. During the Adult Swim break, Mike McFarlane said he occasionally gave attendees at cons such as Anime Expo a sneak peek at upcoming episodes in the dub. And at Otakon, the staff announced who would be playing an important character in upcoming episodes, but we'll get to that in a bit. Before we move back to discussing the anime, let's talk about the video games for a moment.
English dub history. English dub history.
Square Enix and Funimation released 2 video games for the PlayStation 2 during Full Metal's Adult Swim broadcast: Full Metal Alchemist and the Broken Angel and Full Metal Alchemist 2 Curse of the Crimson Elixir. The third game of this trilogy, Full Metal Alchemist 3 The Girl Who Succeeds God, never saw a release in the West. All 3 of these action RPGs were published by Square Enix and developed by Rockgene. Full Metal Alchemist and the Broken Angel was released in America on January 18th, 2005. The game features Ed and Al dealing with another train jacking. The train crashes and they try to take another train from a city called Highskart. You know, Highskart, the home of Professor Wilhelm Eiselstein and his daughter Celine. Well, the Elrics certainly know them, and say the professor was friends with their master, and that he's researching a catalyst to improve and streamline alchemy. The boys run into a girl named Armony, played by Elise Bauman, who is collecting flowers, and by run into I mean, she falls on top of them. She runs off to a town creatively called New Highskart, as the first Highskart is overrun with chimeras. The brothers save Armony from a band of thieves and she leads them to meet the professor. Professor Eiselstein is researching the Philosopher's Catalyst, and as the name implies, it is like the Philosopher's Stone and requires those flowers Armony was collecting. He is aided by an assistant named Greta Riddell, who, plot twist, is actually named Camila and is after this catalyst for herself. She is voiced by Wendy Powell, who plays Envy in the anime. Other game-only characters include 2 corrupt military members, a man with increasing amounts of automail named Gens Breslau, voiced by Chris Roger, who also plays the muscular miner Halling, and Brigadier General Moody Nemda, performed by Andrew Chandler, who appeared as Bald the train-jacking terrorist in the anime. In the continuity of the 2003 series, The Broken Angel happens after episode 17 when Ed, Al, and Armstrong take the train back to Central, but before episode 18 when the boys begin their search for the research journals written by Dr. Marco. It's funny because when this game launched, neither of those episodes had aired on Adult Swim yet. As mentioned, Funimation dubbed the first game before they dubbed the anime, and oh boy, does it show. Actors were new to their roles and had little context to go off about their characters, such as the case with Travis Willingham voicing Mustang. As mentioned, Willingham tried to pull in this bombastic feeling to the role, so one of the first lines he records goes like,
"Perhaps you could use a handful, metal!"
It very much sounds Armstrong-esque. The game also has the same problem as episode 1 of the anime, with Al referring to Ed by name instead of as brother. And there are inconsistencies with the anime's dialogue versus the game's dialogue, as a character in the coming episodes is referred to as teacher in the anime, but here is called master. In fact, the whole script feels off. It does not match the general tone of the anime's dub script. But not only is this everyone on the team's first outing with Full Metal Alchemist, this dub script supervisor is completely different from the team that worked on the anime, so it makes sense that doesn't feel quite right. Critical reception was meh to bad. This game has a score of 56 on Metacritic. Game reviewers praised the alchemy system and anime cutscenes, but not much else. Reviewer Jeremy Dunham of IGN wrote in his review of The Broken Angel, "The problem is that Full Metal Alchemist and The Broken Angel ultimately turns out to be a poor man's Kingdom Hearts. It follows a lot of the same gameplay conventions that Disney's product offered, while stripping them of any real strategy." A fitting note, as Kingdom Hearts 2 would be launching later that year. Dunham also criticized the game's controls, calling the character movements in-game clunky. It feels as though Edward's in slow motion most of the time. Critics also noted how Al's AI isn't very good, the game's enemies are cut and paste, and the title is ultimately a monotonous chore. The follow-up game to The Broken Angel, Full Metal Alchemist 2: Curse of the Crimson Elixir, launched on July 12, 2005 in North America. The game also came with a bonus, a DVD with episodes 27 and 28 of the anime. Curse of the Crimson Elixir doesn't happen anywhere in the story of the anime. Instead, the game is kind of like a remix of the standard story elements, but with a new plot line after some early events. The Father Cornella story plays out as normal, with slight differences like this girl giving Ed a crimson ring, but after Ed fights Cornella gets, sucked into the Shadow Realm, and this creepy woman shows up. The plot continues to go, close enough. But when the boys return to Resin Bowl to get mended, people begin turning into these shadow zombies? A journey through a ravaged, creepy town and a lot of lore about a 5,000-year-old civilization later, the duo meets a mysterious alchemist named Jack Crowley and an archaeologist named Arlen Glossner, voiced by John Bergmeyer and Rick Spiegel respectively. John Bergmeyer will become relevant in the anime soon, but video game actor Rick Spiegel has no further FMA roles after this. The creepy girl is revealed to be a resurrection of Jack Crowley's wife named Elma, voiced by Lucy Christian, who has also voiced Siren in the anime, and will become relevant again soon. The game's dub has some differences from the anime. The voice cast is the same, but some terminology is different, like Ed and Al referred to Pinocchio as Auntie instead of Granny. The game also runs into the same problem as the first 2 episodes of Full Metal Alchemist and the first game. Al refers to Ed by name instead of calling him brother for the first chunk of the game, and by the time they're in Resin Bowl, he inconsistently refers to Ed as brother. Weird. Critically, this game did better with reviewers, as it has a 67 on Metacritic. Virtually every reviewer that played the first game agrees this game is an improvement in just about every sense. Still not perfect, but so much better. Critics still praised the unique anime cutscenes and the voice acting, but commented on the improvements to the graphics, control, alchemy system, and Al's AI. One of the most common criticisms of the game is it's short. No, but really, the other complaint is just the same as the first game, it's repetitive. And the ultimate verdict was it's something for fans of Full Metal Alchemist, as expected. With that knocked out, let's get back to the anime.
English Dub History. English Dub History.
If there's one man who can help, it's the man coming in here right now.
Full Metal Alchemist came back in full swing on September 17th, 2005, bringing on the next part of the series to American fans. Episodes 27 through 41 build more upon the anime's departing storyline as it introduces new characters and plot points not found in the manga. Again, hasty plot summary, I'm skimming a lot of details for the sake of time, plus keeping it relevant to discussing the dub, but I hope this is entertaining, and seriously, if you haven't seen the 2003 anime, check it out, it's worth a watch. The first episode to air following the break was episode 27, Teacher, introducing an important character. The teacher of the Elric brothers, Izumi Curtis, played by Christine Otten, hence why the episode is called Teacher.
There are far uglier sights. In the future, if you want all your things to be so beautiful, then I suggest you don't break them in the first place.
Izumi is disappointed in her students for trying human transmutation, as she herself is very sickly from trying it too. She lost some of her internal organs, much like how Ed and Al lost some of their bodies. It's revealed homunculi are made by failed human transmutations, as episode 28 introduces a brand new anime-only homunculus, Wrath, a small child that is the result of Izumi Curtis trying human transmutation on her unborn child. He is from the Gate and is the current owner of Ed's missing arm and leg. He's also able to do alchemy, kind of. This boy is played by Lucy Christian, whom we've seen a couple of times already in the Fullmetal Alchemist universe. Her audition for this was not just a page, it was for a whole episode. This is the role I alluded to earlier being announced at Otakon. Reportedly, the fan feedback at the panel was pure excitement.
You wanna play? Everyone's dead, so I got bored. Did you come to play with me?
The following episode introduces one more anime-only character. Remember earlier Troy Baker didn't have the chops to be the homunculus Greed? Well, Baker did land the role of Colonel Frank Archer, an antagonist that loves warfare.
This is certainly getting interesting. A perfectly functioning chimera. It will be mine.
Baker said Frank Archer was a really fun character to play, as he's such a snake. This role is what really catapulted him and got his name out there. Up until then, he was just background characters. These episodes also introduced the character Dante, get it, like the author of the Divine Comedy, who is Izumi's former teacher. Cindy Mayfield is the voice of this elderly woman. Also shown more formally is the result of Ed and Al's failed human transmutation, Sloth, aka Juliet Douglas, who is shown multiple times prior, especially when Hughes finds out what's going on. The anime reintroduces Greed and his henchmen, capturing Al to figure out the secret to his immortality. Now, the cast to play Greed's Chimera pals. The dog chimera Dorashay is played by John Bergmeyer, who, remember, we talked about a little bit ago in one of the video games. And the other three main chimeras are performed by Houston actors. The gecko chimera Beto is played by Greg Ayers, Ox chimera Law is played by John Gramillion, and Snake chimera Marta is played by Tiffany Grant. Again, cool to see Houston folks be on this project. Dante turns out to be the main antagonist. She transfers her soul to the body of Yoki lackey turned housemaid Lyra, leading to Ed's scuffle with Greed. Also, Chris Patton got to do puking noises for this scene. Ed confronts Greed and finishes the avaricious homunculus off in battle. Probably my favorite fight in the 2003 series.
Damn, kid. That was good.
Now Dante is Lyra, Lyra is Dante, Monica Rial is suddenly the voice of the main baddie. It's outside her normal range as she's normally cutesy girls or Bulma in Dragon Ball Z. She drops her voice deep to do this character, and it's pretty cool to hear her outside her regular gigs. A one-time character named Lujan appears in episode 35 and is played by a guest actor, Johnny Young Bosch, one of my absolute favorite voice actors of all time.
It's been 2 years. I never thought I'd see you again, and I've got so much to tell you.
Lujan plays a role in Lust's backstory. A shame he's killed in the same episode he appears. Also featured, Marta dies, and the Fuhrer, plot twist, is a homunculus, Pride. Winry and Sheska are also onto the fact the Fuhrer's secretary is a homunculus, and they almost die. The Adult Swim airing went on a short break for a few weeks after episode 40. Fans and publications eagerly awaited the return to see where the story would go next, if they didn't see spoilers. Episode 41, the last leg of the series, hit American airwaves on January 7th, 2006 with no further breaks. While Funimation said they'd use Ready Steady Go for the entire broadcast, they did end up using the fourth opening, Rewrite by Asian Kung Fu Generation, for episodes 42 through 51, just like in Japanese. Plot-related business, Scar makes a massive transmutation circle and Al turns into a Philosopher's Stone. Scar dies and Archer kind of sort of dies, but he comes back as, like, the Terminator, but Full Metal style. he's like made of automail. It's weird. It's weird. Episode 43 contains what I'd argue is the most surprising guest star on the show. This episode introduces Ed and Al's estranged dad, Hohenheim of Light. He's voiced by, drumroll please, Scott McNeil. Yes, that Scott McNeil. The cowboy hat sporting Canadian that's had way too many roles to list, but some of the more notable ones of the era were Piccolo in the original Ocean version of Dragon Ball Z, and Koga in Inuyasha. Talk about unexpected and going the extra mile for this dub. When casting for Hohenheim, Mike McFarlane and Colleen Clinkenbeard had Scott McNeil for their #1 pick and were so glad when he said yes. McNeil's massive resume has a lot of zany cartoon voices, but according to him, this is as close to his normal voice as any character he's ever played. Bonus note is Hohenheim has very similar hair to Scott McNeil.
Thanks for waking me. I could have slept all day. I've been losing track of time.
Turns out Hohenheim's been doing the body swap technique like Dante across time and space, as he's also been to another dimension. He's been doing it for a long time, then met Trisha, so Dante went from his main squeeze to his side bitch. And as a nice little f you, Dante shows off her baby tossing skills and opens the gate for him. Bye bye! Ed and Al defeat their mother-turned-monster in a cool fight resulting in her fading away into ammonia. Les dies in these episodes after a lot of puking, just like Greed. Laura Bailey said the puking was fun. The main gang is onto the fact the Fuhrer is a homunculus, and Mustang goes to confront him, crashing the birthday celebration of the Fuhrer's son, Salim Bradley. Little Salim is voiced by LA actor Zara Little. Dante lures Ed to an underground ballroom. They have a philosophical discussion on equivalent exchange. This baby whines and opens the gate of truth for Ed, no tossing required. Ed finds on the other side he's in a different body that has a human right arm. He wound up in a mystical foreign land called London. He meets up with his pop, whose body was left intact, and there's reference to a new character named Churchill. Well, British Ed dies after a Zeppelin falls on him and he returns to the FMA world. He fights Envy and, plot twist, Envy is the first homunculus in Dante's little group, as it was her and Hohenheim's son that died from mercury poisoning. Oh, by the way, this Envy form is voiced by Mike McFarland. No, half-brother, what are you doing? Adult Swim needed to air a special disclaimer with episode 51, the series finale, on March 18th, 2006. After the typical content advisory that plays every night, the staff of Adult Swim showed one more notice. Just in case that last disclaimer wasn't enough, this episode contains extreme violence. We would rather run this than cut the violence from the episode because we are American cowboys. Thanks to this warning, audiences could enjoy this action-packed episode as intended. Well, kind of. The runtime of episode 51 is the same as other episodes, but the credit sequence in this episode takes place during on-screen events. They can't abridge that, or else they'd need to remove large pieces of the plot. This said, Adult Swim instead needed to abridge the opening theme, and they cut it before the chorus. Al sacrifices himself to bring his dead brother's soul back from the gate and sucks Envy inside in the process. Envy opens the gate to try and find Hohenheim and turns into a dragon. Sure, why not? This episode also shows the conclusion to Mustang's confrontation with the Fuhrer. Yeah, this is where the extreme violence comes in. Mustang gets stabbed, the Fuhrer's son, birthday boy Salim Bradley, who was only introduced a couple episodes earlier, accidentally weakens his father, and the Fuhrer gives his kid a special birthday surprise, a broken neck. Mustang gets the upper hand and scorches the shit out of the Fuhrer.
I don't know how long you've lived, Fuhrer, or how many times you've cheated death, but not anymore.
Ed repays the favor to Al and sacrifices himself. Ed passes through the gate and he is transported to the city of Munich circa 1921, which is the name of the episode in the original version, Munich 1921. A nice touch to the dub is the Germans have, well, German accents. Hohenheim is seen communing with men of the Thule Society, including Karl Haushofer, voiced by John Swayze. This was Swayze's first named role with Funimation, as up until then his work was primarily with ADV Films in Houston, as, well, that's where he lives. Oh, but that's not even the best thing. So this little chant they're doing here? That's not just gibberish. Jared Hedges found an old German alchemy book and transcribed one of the entries. The team had someone from the local university that speaks German help them. I'm telling you, extra mile for this dub. Just for this clip that's like 10 seconds maybe. Al gets his body back, but can't remember anything about his adventure with his brother. He would like to learn more about alchemy, just like his big brother trapped in another world. Ed hopes to learn more about methods to return to his original world, including reading up on Robert Hutchings Goddard's research on fuel-propelled rockets and other fanciful inventions. The episode concludes with Ed and Al promising, an entire universe away, they'll see each other again. And fans eagerly awaited the day the Elric brothers would reunite, and they wouldn't need to wait long.
English dub history.
In lieu of a season 3, Fullmetal Alchemist anime adaptation had a feature-length movie as a sequel. The film takes place mostly in Munich, but also in the Fullmetal Alchemist universe. To add to this whole parallel universe plotline, the movie features a lot of German versions of characters fans might recognize. But yeah, the plot is bizarre, and this is a really divisive movie amongst fans. When I say this movie takes place heavily in Germany, I mean it. This is gonna be awkward for YouTube censorship. A certain group in Germany around World War II makes prominent appearances in Conqueror of Shambhala. Basically, this girl named Dietlind Eckhart, named after a prominent member of the Thule Society in real life, is trying to open a gateway to the FMA world and take their weaponry and powers to overthrow the, prominent German group. Nobody working on the FMA English dub knew for sure if Funimation was getting this movie after the dub wrapped up production, but thankfully, it did. Recording was a 3-week process. Mike McFarland and Colin Clinkenbeard teamed up once again for this movie, but Mike McFarland directed and Clinkenbeard was line producer as she was working on something else at the time. Some of the process involved rounding everybody back up, even if it was just for a few lines. At the time, Breda's voice actor Josh Berry was in New Mexico, Lauren Good, as mentioned, was in Chicago, and Ross's voice actress Meredith McCoy, get this, was in Israel. But everyone returned to play their characters. In the last episode of the anime, the dub gave characters in Munich German accents, as it helps further differentiate the FMA world from the real world. Mike McFarland thought this didn't play well in the movie, which heavily takes place in Germany, so the majority of the characters do not have German accents. McFarland saw the trait as arbitrary and wanted to focus on telling the story than playing with accents. Conqueror of Shambhala debuted at Anime Expo on July 2nd, 2006, less than 3 months after the final episode aired on Adult Swim. Now, I want you to guess how many people showed up to this screening. No, go on, ballpark estimate. Did you say 500 people? 1,000 people? 2,000 people? No, 4,500 people showed up to the screening at Anime Expo. Every time a character came on screen during the movie, the audience would start cheering so loudly nobody could hear the dialogue. That's true hype right there. And not only were the voice actors and ADR directors in attendance, so was the director of the 2003 anime itself, Seiji Mizushima. At that very convention, the company announced when that film would be available to widespread audiences, and it wasn't just on home video. The movie actually made an appearance in 40 theaters on September 8th, 2006, and DVD 4 days following. Around Funny's feature film finally reaching fans' hands, they released the final 2 DVD sets in quick succession. Volume 12 and Volume 13 released on September 5th and September 12th, 2006 respectively, containing the uncut wrap-up of the anime. Included on Volume 13 is a special called Transmutation of a Phenomenon, a half-hour video with voice actors and other staff members talking about the series. In the end, Al ends up in Munich and decides to stay with his brother. Al regained his memories of their journey together and would like to continue those memories further. Ed and Al end their journey in an alternate version of our world, reunited and settled on making the world a better place, first by stopping the atomic bomb. Fade to credits. With the main story being over, how did Fullmetal Alchemist do with the Western audience Funimation sought? Sure, it had hype midway through, but how did it do at the end of the series? Was their effort worth the sacrifice? Well, the anime won 5 awards at the American Anime Awards in 2007, winning nearly every category in which it was given a nomination. The show won Best Cast, Best Long Series, and Best DVD Package Design. Vic Mignogna won Best Actor, winning over big names like Johnny Young Bosch and Yuri Lowenthal, and Rewrite won Best Opening. Funimation's president at the time, Gen Fukunaga, had this to say about the acclaim. These awards are a great testament to the popularity of Fullmetal Alchemist in the United States. Fullmetal Alchemist had a great year in the United States, and we would like to thank our US fans and our Japanese business partners for making this series such a great success. Vic Mignogna also won an award from Anime on DVD for playing Edward Elric. Reportedly, Travis Willingham and Sonny Strait were nominated for an award too, for being Roy Mustang and Mace Hughes respectively. The story's conclusion did not stop the Full Metal hype train. The action video game Full Metal Alchemist Dual Sympathy launched on the Nintendo DS fully dubbed into English on December 12, 2006. FMA had an American trading card game that launched in 2005 and had a decent enough player base, but was discontinued on July 11, 2007. After the physical game got canned, it received a DS game on October 16, 2007. The game has full voice work by the English voice actors, including Alphonse, who fans can tell more and more is hitting puberty.
You're just as bad as Ed when he has to report in. I won't let you have the stone. I'll stop you. Hey, come on, we've got to hurry.
It was evident Full Metal, as far as popularity, wasn't going away. Sure, there's no more to the story, but it's what the series meant to people that made it stick so well. It was hardly just a flash in the pan. It helped a lot of people get into anime. Per what we discussed, it even played a role in boosting Adult Swim's ratings. Mignogna, Dismuke, Glass, and so many other members were famed for their roles in Full Metal Alchemist. The show meant a lot to Vic Mignogna especially. He named his fan base the Resin Bull Rangers after Ed's hometown. He did a cover of Brothers, which is the insert song in Russian, in English.
Beautiful mother, soft and sweet. Once you were gone, we were not complete.
He even met the Japanese voice of Ed, Romy Park.
Say hello.
Say hello.
To Resin Bull Rangers.
To Resin Bull Rangers.
Yeah.
Mignogna also made his own fan movie called Full Metal Fantasy, a live-action short inspired by Full Metal Alchemist. Some cast members reprised their roles in this live-action fanfiction, including Monica Rial, Lucy Christian, and Caitlin Glass. The Funimation cast had a lot of strong bonds with the Japanese staff, and these ties to the Japanese side of Full Metal include the author herself, Hiromu Arakawa. Upon seeing the film for herself, Arakawa sent Vic Mignogna a full pack of goodies. A long, kind thank you letter saying how much she liked the film, some Full Metal Alchemist merchandise, and an autographed illustration signed to Edward Vic Elric. Things went quiet for a couple of years after the movie, save for some re-releases of the anime, although the fanbase was still alive and kicking. The voice actors that attended cons were still recognized for their roles in FMA, but they were sad the series was over. The thing about it was, though, Funimation didn't dub everything in the Full Metal Alchemist library, and soon the cast would find themselves returning to their characters.
English Dub History. English Dub History.
On January 10th, 2009, a report came out from the Fanboy Review about some early news, and the last item on the list was that Funimation planned to release the Full Metal Alchemist Premium Collection OVAs, stating the company was dubbing it before 2009 started. This post came before any formal announcement, but a Funimation representative told Anime News Network they hoped to make a Full Metal Alchemist related announcement in the coming days at the anime convention OhioCon. Sure enough, during OhioCon weekend in Columbus, Funimation broke the Full Metal silence and announced the Full Metal Alchemist Premium OVA collection, saying it would include all featurettes from the original Japanese version. The DVD contains the OVAs titled The Full Metal Alchemist Experience, Chibi Rap Party, Live Action, and Kids. The Full Metal Alchemist Experience contains all the animations from a Full Metal Alchemist attraction at Universal Studios Japan. Viewers are first greeted by the Fuhrer.
Oh yes, I forgot. Please, all photography, video, and sound recording is strictly prohibited inside Central Command. That is all.
And then given a briefing by Lieutenant Havoc to explain the Full Metal universe. This OVA is like an FMA fanatic's wet dream. Not only are you, the viewer, hired on as a state alchemist, you have an eventful first day on the job. Before you start your task, you are given a special ring as a bonus.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
You are sent on a mission to rescue Edward Elric himself, as Winry and Alphonse are being held hostage by Greed. Then it turns out Winry is actually Envy in disguise and kicks Greed's ass, and then the rest of the homunculi follow, then the military shows up. It's like everyone is here! A recurring theme in these OVAs is Alphonse's voice, this being the first instance of how did they do Al's voice. By this point, Dismuke had hit puberty and now towers over people. It was the little brother now.
Yeah! Ed,
did! How did you know it was—
Well, look at that.
I mean, he sounds like he used to. Did Funimation record this and just sit on it for years? Actually, no. In fact, they worked on it in December of 2008. Leave it to Mike McFarlane to come up with this brilliant solution. All of Alphonse's lines are recycled from the anime, film, and games. And if there was a line McFarlane needed that didn't exist, he had a character off-screen talk or shout to fill in the silence. Otherwise, every cast member in this special is back. Near the end of the special, Mustang tells viewers to join the battle, and you use your ring to do this.
You overdid it.
Your surprise tool ends the fight, and congratulations, you had an exciting first day on the job.
That was impressive work in there. I better keep an eye on you.
In Chibi Rap Party, the cast of the 2003 Full Metal Alchemist plus Conqueror Shambhala all come together to celebrate a successful series. Humorously, dub scriptwriters added this line to explain why Alphonse has a deeper voice now.
Hey, what happened to your voice?
It's called puberty, Ed. Maybe it'll happen to you someday. What? I'm just kidding.
When Scar shows up, he is not voiced by Damian Clark. Scar only has a handful of lines in this OVA, and since Clark didn't live in Texas, it would be more cost-effective to have a sound-alike. The Scarface-just ballin' is voiced by J. Michael Tatum, who is a huge Full Metal Alchemist fanboy. He was already stoked to be background characters in Conqueror Shambhala, now he's an actual character in the series.
We didn't even get lines! We had to work as armored zombies to earn extra cash! You're really pissing me off!
But that's not the only vocal problem. Josh Berry did not return to his role in Full Metal Alchemist, so Breda is voiced by Charles Baker instead.
So why does it take 10 dogs to play one on screen? Why aren't you wearing any pants?
Thank God Hohenheim does not talk, that would be a pain to recast. The following short is a live-action Full Metal Alchemist. No, it's not what you think. It's a silly short using an Alphonse Elric statue. Yeah, they'd never do a live-action Full Metal Alchemist project, right? Well, not counting Vix, that's fan-made. This Alphonse statue travels to Studio Bones, the, quote, other side of the gate, voiced by Aaron Dismuke. You know, an older Aaron Dismuke. This does not sound good.
This is the gate, the doorway to the truth. The truth about what happened to us, and what's in store for us next. At last, I'll find brother.
And lastly, a short that shows the full metal future of Edward Elric, specifically on his 100th birthday. It shows his great-grandchildren on their way to visit him, and on the way it shows a poster for Conqueror Shambhala. That has weird implications for this timeline. Mignana and Glass both reprise the great-grandchildren versions of Ed and Winry. Hold on, why does one look like Win? You know what, never mind. So far, we've had Alphonse's voice recycled, reprised, and retouched. This last OVA recasts him entirely. Alphonse is the specialist voiced by Brittany Karbowski, and she does a really good job.
Ready, guys? On 3. 1, 2, 3! Happy birthday!
The one OVA not included in this set is called Reflections, and is essentially a recap of the 2003 series, so nothing too wild. Now, there was one more question amongst fans when Funimation announced this OVA set. Would they be obtaining the rights to the next anime of Full Metal Alchemist announced months earlier? That is a story for next time. Thank you for watching the season premiere of English Dub History Season 2. If you like what you saw and want to support the channel, please like, subscribe, and leave in the comments what did you think of the dub of 2003 Full Metal Alchemist? When did you first see this anime? What do you think the rest of the season will bring, and what might you like to see? I have plans for like the next 8 episodes or so, following the next episode of course. 2 episodes specifically are super hot requests, so stay tuned. A very special thank you to Tierney Titus, the original voice of Alicia Hughes, for doing an interview with me, and Brandon Murphy for providing the eye catch voice. You will be hearing more of him, check him out, murphysvoice.com. We still have time left in the credits, I didn't want it to be blindingly fast, so Brotherhood's gonna come out in a few weeks. I got caught up with real life stuff because this isn't my full-time job, unfortunately. So yes, please bear with me, I promise it's gonna be worth it. And if you're still watching, tomorrow, as of the upload, I will be at a convention, so if you want to meet me in person, go to Fan Expo Cleveland. I think this video took more time than every single video I have done combined. And part of that is because I was working ahead and working on Brotherhood. So I'm really hoping these videos do well. Also, this was supposed to be the 500 subscriber special, and since announcing this episode, I have hit 700 subscribers. So next milestone is 1,000. I don't think I'll do like a crazy special episode like this, but we'll see. Shout out to all of my subscribers on Twitch, supporters on Patreon, and people who donated during Extra Life. Twitch subscribers and patrons get to see videos before they come out and get to listen to some early script readings. So if you'd like to support what I do, gain access to my exclusive Discord server, and have your name here, please consider supporting on either platform. Until next time, take care.